Hey guys, it's RC and I'm glad to have you back here again for another national overview for Amon Nation, of course. I believe I've done, I'm positive I've done this nation before. I don't know if I've left a link in the description for the mod itself, but I'll probably link it down below. This is the Gathering Sturm. This is a new nation, the Hagia. I'm going to pronounce it Hagia, Hagia. Hallowed land here. So this is a very interesting faction that we're going to go over today. And I think it has some cool little interesting pieces which should be pretty fun. Definitely if you're playing the mod, definitely check this nation out. Hagia is the successor state of the once great Empire of Ermor. Of course, everyone knows I love Ermor, not necessarily EA, but MA for sure. Um, and the kind of whole Roman aesthetic they have going on. When death was let loose in the Civil War, heralding its fall, whole provinces turned to ashen waste. The Lichgary or Liturgirkau literal city of Hagia was one such place. Previously a center of the cult of the shroud and the burial place of emperors, now turned into a lifeless desert. In the centuries since, new people have moved into the recovering lands, marveling at the perfectly preserved cities and attempting to revive the culture of their long dead forebears. Okay, so what it seems like, okay, they've already wiped these cities out. Everyone that used to live here is now dead, and now this group uh, or this group of people have came to kind of reestablish themselves, trying to fill in the shoes of what these cities once were. Now, however, the ancient and hungry god is awakening in the ruins of the old empire, and death yet again stalks the lands. Yet not all is lost. Under Hagia's great Arbaster mausoleum lies a lapis manulus, a gateway to the abode of the dead. Ancient spirits emerge from the command of the awakening god to aid its inheritors of the empire and prevent to repeat the old follies. Hagia organizes armies in a similar manner to old legionary system, though they remain a pale shadow of Ermor's armies. Hagian legionaries prefer kite shields over tower shields, and javelins have mostly fallen out of fashion. Very interesting there. Race, of course, we have spirits and humans. Military is heavy infantry, crossbows, cav. Always good to see crossbows in there. Um, Magic is water and earth, nature and astral. Very interesting. Priests are mediocre. But I wouldn't say your priests are mediocre. We'll go over that. Temples and friendly dominion reanimate main warriors. Or man warriors. Building standard forts. Temples cost 600, so we do see a 200 gold increase as far as temples go. And we'll go over main warriors and whatnot as well. Let's go ahead and look at the sites you get the Molosseum that we talked about. It gives you 2 earth gems that let you recruit a few cap only units. You have the lapis here, manulus. So it produces 2 water gems and it produces 1 nature gem, and it has a conjuration bonus of 10. So that is taking 10% off of any of those summons that you may have. Very interesting. This is going to be more than likely used pretty heavily. And if you have anything that you want to be doing as far as conjuration goes, I would recommend you summon it in your capital unless you find a site that gives you a better bonus. And then we have the Hagian Undead. Site is not available from the start but might appear later on. This is just the summons that you get, and we'll go over these. So looking at our lineup of troops, of course I'll go over the Undead once we hit the battle map. But we had the Vigil. So it is a spearman unit, does carry a javelin, 8 gold, 9 resources, 5 recruitment points. A very, very cheap, low protection unit. Very average across the board here. That tower shield is giving him a pretty nice bonus there to his defense skill, but attack skill is rather lowered. So that is very unfortunate. But this unit really doesn't have the killing power that you're going to want. This is going to be your chaff, your siege force, your units that block other units from getting to your mages. Average human unit, pretty low morale actually, seeing that morale of 8. So this almost seems like almost like a slave unit without being a slave. It does say citizen, so they're not very well trained at that point. They are very, very cheap though, so keep that in mind. Other than that, as far as their things go, I'd say one of the big selling points is that they actually have a javelin. They do have 2 javelins, so that is very nice. And they have an iron cap, which is also good to see them having a helmet on along with the tower shield. Give them a pretty nice parry there. Next, we have our crossbow unit, Pavis crossbow, Pavis, I don't know. 10 gold, so pretty cheap. 15 resources, 9 recruitment points. A fairly decent cheap crossbow unit here. 40 range, 11 pierce damage, very, very good. Of course, we know that of course it's going to be armor piercing. That's what makes crossbows so good. But you'll see something very interesting in the sprite of this unit is that it actually has a tower shield to come along with it. So in most fights, as far as archers go, this unit is going to do very well against other archers and things of such of that. Because they have that tower shield blocking them, which gives them a lot of protection here. Pushing their defense skill up to 13 is pretty nice as well. They do have protection of 12 because they have ring mail instead of leather, and they have a half helmet here. 10 morale, so average attack skill. We really don't care about attack skill too much due to the fact you don't want this guy in combat. But a very cheap, very nice crossbow unit. These definitely come in handy and deal a lot of damage to your opponents. Next, we're getting into the more of the infantry line here, not just chaff, but more expensive infantry. We have the Retentus swordsman here, 10 gold, 26 resources, 6 recruitment points. And it's not necessarily that they're more expensive; it's that they do cost more resources. So due to that, they're going to be, of course, having higher protection, possibly better stats as far as that goes. But they're going to be your more staying troops. They're not necessarily your chaff, but you will expect them to stay in the fight longer. They do have higher morale, higher protection, like I said. So that's going to be very, very nice. A little bit slower, combat speed 8, but that's not too big of a deal. 16 damage slash broadsword isn't too bad either. That's pretty decent, honestly, for a 10 gold unit. So we're looking at a pretty decent swordsman here. And if I see a majority of an army being this type of swordsman, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a pretty good unit. And now we'll move on to other units. We have the halberd here, dealing an immense amount of damage, doing 22 pierce slash damage here with a halberd. That's very, very nice, and an 18 protection. Very, very decent unit overall. Of course, the defense skill is low, being a two-handed weapon. It doesn't have a shield. And then on top of that, average attack skill 10 gold, 28 resource. So still staying at that 10 gold mark. 11 morale is pretty decent. So this is the units that you're going to come in after your shielded units to actually deal damage. And honestly, it's depending on what you are fighting, could depend on whether or not you would want the halberd or you would want the swordsman. And then next we have a very interesting unit that can only be recruited in your capital, and that is the Celarius maybe? I'm pretty sure, I'm not entirely sure, but we do see a more expensive unit here. We see 13 protection, so they've dropped 5 protection, added 5 gold to the cost here, which is very interesting. 17 resources, so the resources have dropped, so you're able to make these faster as long as you have the gold. 20 recruitment points. Recruitment points have gone up as well. Very high magical resistance, very high morale. Defense skill is very high with that tower skill being up to 17. That's almost a cab defense skill. 13 attack skill. That's probably, I'm pretty sure that's the best attack skill we've seen so far. So this unit is definitely more of a quality unit here. And as you look through the things, you say, okay, pierce, cold, poison, undead. What? You can recruit undead units? Okay. So this is where some of the undead factor is starting to come in. Of course, it's inanimate. It needs not to eat, never heals, and it has spirit sight. So you're getting a pretty decent unit here for 15 gold. A unit that has spirit sight, poison resistance, cold resistance, a magical weapon here, the enchanted Spatha. which has the 19 magical damage. As on top of that will stop the dead, so it's even doing extra damage to undead at that point. So honestly, pretty decent unit here. Definitely things we could work around with this, and we'll talk about that later for sure. Keep in mind things like cold and poison resistance here for sure. Keep those two things in mind. Next, we have the Defensor Passes. And now this is going to be your 25 gold sacred unit. It does have like a spear type weapon here, being 19 pierce slash damage. Also having Stop the Dead like the last unit did. Also being a magic weapon. So you're not going to have to take magic weapon. You won't have to take a magic weapon bless at this point. Because not only do you have a recruitable troop, you also have a sacred that has magical weapons. So that is going to be very, very nice. On top of that, you'll notice this unit also has defense, or has a protection of 20. This is the highest protected unit that we have due to that full plate and half helmet. Of course, the kite shield is helping defense go out, but this is also the most expensive unit in forms of resource recruitment points in gold. So this is, as far as it goes, your most expensive unit. Morale 14 is great. That's about it. We can talk about a few blesses later, probably cold or poison resistance and things like that. It'll play off more of our strategies we might think of later. And next we have the Cataltus, and this is going to be your cavalry unit here. It seems like wealthy citizens or nobles at this point, they have the benefit of being a cav unit. 30 gold, 33 resources, 30 recruitment points. Honestly, for a decent cav unit, that's not bad at all. 12 hit points, 16 protection, which is pretty good. So it's kind of putting them around the heavy cav area. 10 and 11 morale, magic resistance, not bad. Defense skill 15. Of course, we have some units that have higher defense skill than that, but that's not too big of a deal. We kind of want these for their combat speed, their flanking capability. So that is fine as well. Of course, they do have a lance charge, which is always great to see. They have a broadsword attack, and they have a hoof attack, so they will dish out a decent amount of damage as well. Not too much left to say about that. That's just a average cav unit for you. So next we're going to go over things like the scout. You just get an average indie scout. You get a Dux. Now this is a commander of that cav unit that you have, leading 60. I mean, of course, it doesn't give you any negative penalties to your morale, but it also doesn't give you any positive ones, so you have to keep that in mind. 50 gold, 31 resources. Of course, we'd probably want a cheaper commander if we were just getting 60 leadership. Next, we have a monk, 30 gold or recruitable, holy one. It's also sacred. Like I say, it's just a holy one. Very low protection, very not something you want in combat, not something you can do much with, but it is a holy one if needed. Next, we have the Haruspex here, which is going to be an Astral 1, Nature 1, Fortune Teller. So that's going to be a very, very interesting, pretty low costing unit here, being at 65. Of course, since it's not sacred, the upkeep is rather high at 52. Oops, sorry, I had a hiccup. At 52, so you have to keep that in mind that they're not as cheap as they may look. Yes, the upfront gold cost is not that expensive, but for 9 research points, that's kind of a high upkeep cost. And then we'll keep going. Of course, we have lots of things that you can do with this. You can, of course, have communions, giving you much higher astral magic, giving you much higher nature magic. At that point, you can do things like Serpent's Blessing, Howl, Mass Regeneration, Mass Protection. I think I said Relief. So lots of different high-level magic plays you can do at that point. Of course, there's a lot more. I'm just not going over them at the moment. And as far as Astral goes, you can do Communions of Mind Burn, Soul Slay, Anti-Magic, you can do Doom, Battle Fortune, all kinds of luck casting. This unit definitely has a lot of things that you can have it do. Next, we're going to be going over the Adjudicator here. 110 gold, 33 resources, 2 recruitment points. 44 gold per year. So of course, since it does have the higher initial cost, It will have the lower upkeep cost because it is a sacred unit, sacred mage. You will be getting either a water one or an earth one. And honestly, both of those aren't too bad. Of course, you can use the earth ones as pretty decent thugs. Water ones, you can still kind of make those into thugs as well. Just probably won't be able to take as much PD as the earth one will. They also have combat caster, which is pretty decent. Encumbrance 8, so they do have high encumbrance. So you might have to fix that with some fatigue removing. What's it called? Revigoration. That's what it's called. So that will be have kept in mind. So, but could be a candidate. I mean, but it does have 2 less research than the hard specs. So back and forth on what you think there. And next we have the sensor. 260 gold, 34 resources. Of course, since these guys are both heavily armored, of course the resources are going to be fairly high. So that is kept in mind there. But you're going to be getting a Water 2, Earth 2 Mage with Leadership 80. So, of course, this is already our best leader that we have. It is also a Holy One Priest at 13 research points. And a Combat Caster. A Water 2, Earth 2 is going to give you some pretty decent magic abilities. Of course, you can do get some Earth Boots. And do Strength of Giants, Legion of Steel. Legion of Steel would be probably very, very strong for you. Temper Wheel, things like that. Of course, this could be a great thug. And as far as the water goes, you could be doing things like Grip of Winter. Remember I spoke about how the Undead do have cold resistance. On top of that, you could do different water things. You could do water elementals with this. You can do pretty decent things. I mean, it's not water. Of course, water isn't the top tier magic, but it's not that bad either. So to keep that in mind. But these having Earth 2 on everything is going to be very nice. You can do Summon Earth Power, get to Earth 3. The Earth Boots get them Earth 4. They can do things like Earthquake, Rain of Stone. Not Rain of Stones. Rain of Stones need air. They can do Curse of Stones. That's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, definitely a lot of things you can do with this here. You can have them across the line casting buffs like Legions of Steel and whatnot. Cast Marble Warriors, all kinds of stuff. So this is a pretty good mage for you. With a water booster too, like I said, they can cast Grip of Winter. And next we'll go over to the last unit we have here, a bishop, and this is why I said that our priests are a little bit more than just mediocre. Now this can only be recruited in the capital, so keep that in mind. This is the only mage that can only be recruited in the capital, so that's not too bad as far as that goes. So you have 165 gold, 4 recruitment points, so he's going to take 2 turns to make, but he is a Holy 3 and a chance to get a 10% chance to either get water or death. So your water 1, well, so what if he's a water 1? You have a Holy 3, a recruitable Holy 3 that's also a healer, which is healing units every turn, which is much better than Disease Healer, because of course Disease Healer only cures disease, whereas this cures everything. So that is going to be a very nice mage here. Of course, they are old, but it is what it is. You take what you can get when you get Holy 3s. Stats are mediocre, but cost is fairly cheap, so I think this is a pretty good unit. So now that we've spoke about all these here, we can go. Of course, we said temples. They reanimate. For each temple you have, you reanimate one. No, you reanimate either. I think it's a D3. 1d3, yeah. It's a 1d3 every turn you reanimate at your temples of your undead warriors. And of course, we'll look at those now. I can click on one. There we go. Now, man, warrior, of course, their hit points may vary. Strength 10, attack skill 11, defense skill 16, protection of 10, magical resistance 15, pretty high magical resistance, morale of 16. Okay. You have a spear, you have a javelin, so I wouldn't necessarily say that javelins have quite fallen off. Since your chaff units do have javelins, your main warriors do have javelins as well. Pretty decent as far as your armor goes. You're going to be getting amassing, I mean, of course not as much as Ermor. This is definitely an extra type of unit that you're going to be having up, but I mean, you're definitely going to get a lot of them. Let's see. So it's been 44 turns. I mean, it's not that great, but I've got 73 in my cap. I don't think I've used any, but I could be wrong. I don't think I've used any. No, I don't think so. So, not great, but you have to think that is only one temple that is producing, because it doesn't matter if it's in your capital or not, or it doesn't matter what your dominion score is. It just matters for each temple. It's going to be a 1d3. So you can either roll 1, a 2, or a 3 every turn. And then before we kind of talk a little bit more about, I guess, about strategy, or I guess we don't really have to. Um, I would honestly say that it'd probably be very, very beneficial to you if you took Astral Earth on your Pretender, due to the fact of you being able to make communion matrices and use them on your Adjudicators here, to not only get Earth but also water and holy into your communions. I feel like that would be very, very beneficial. Of course, your slaves will have to be Horfixes, and you will have to keep in mind that those will be off-path mages, but just getting at least one spell off in a higher case like that, that could be very, very beneficial for you. And even if you don't want to do that, you can always throw one of the earth ones in, have them doing something else. I don't necessarily have to be casting spells, but they will join the communion. But they can cast things like summon earth power and give everyone revig and things like that, so keep that in mind, or some decent self buffs as far as earth and water goes to help protect your communion if they are in harm's way. So next, what we'll talk about will be some of the spells that you're going to be getting. So you'll get Summon Main at level 5 Conjuration, as well as Contact Alar at level 5. And then you'll get a Die Main here at level 7. This does look like a very difficult path to get here, being a Holy 4. But it's not too bad since you do have recruitable Holy 3s. So whenever you recruit a Holy 3, or whenever you prophetize a Holy 3, it will then turn into an Holy 4. Whereas if you prophetize a Holy 1, it still only turns to a Holy 3. So, as far as the main goes, you'll be getting introduced into your death here. And this was for 16 gems, if I believe, something along those lines in that area. Maybe it was 15. But you'll be getting a Water 2, Death 2 Undead Mage that has Ethereal, and it also is sneaking. It does Sacred as well, has magic power, so there are benefits to having magic skills. So, yeah, and being introduced into death is going to be very, very strong for you for sure. With a skull staff, there's a couple of good things that this main here can do. I mean, I won't go into too much detail, but I mean, regardless, a Death 2, Water 2 will be a Horde of Skeletons caster, while also, I don't remember necessarily what the paths are, how high the paths are for a certain spell in particular, which I'll look at real fast. Nope. Nope. Where are you? I do not remember where this spell is. I think I do have, I have Mod Inspector pulled up on the background, but I thought Stygian Raids, here it is. So with just one Skull Staff and a main, you can cast Stygian Reigns, which gives everything, well, it doesn't affect inanimate troops, but it will give everything else invulnerability, which is pretty powerful because not only do your undead have magic weapons, but so do your sacred units have magic weapons, which is going to make it rather difficult, of course, for other people to kill them if they have invulnerability 15, as long as they don't have magic weapons themselves. So that is something that you can definitely use and keep in your back pocket if it ever comes up. Sorry, I had to go. Sorry, I had to go check and see if there's anybody at the door. So next, what we're going to be looking at is going to be the die main here. So this is going to be a Water 3, a Death 3 mage. It's also a Holy 3 on top of that. As Awe could definitely be a pretty decent thug on its own. Being Sacred definitely reminds me of a console from Lemuria, Magic Power, Ethereal, Fortune Teller. Magic Weapon here, stops dead. Okay, so of course, while you can use these as thugs, there are around 30 gems for you, 30 water gems. Um, with a Skull Staff, they're going to be up to Death 4, and being what's very beneficial about being Death 4 is them now Rigor Mortis casters, they're now Darkness casters. They just really increase your power level as far as Death goes. Other than that, of course, you'll be able to get up to Water 5 at this point if you have both of the water boosters, so that is also going to help you out a lot. So that will be kept in mind. But overall, I do really like this summon that we have here. I feel like it's going to be very, very beneficial for you and definitely help you out. And lastly, we do have the Alara here. This is going to be a Water 1, Earth 1, Nature 2, which also has Reduces Unrest, which is an interesting tag I do like to talk about or mention if a unit does have it. So, how beneficial this unit is going to be for you is that it's going to be giving you higher nature. Up until now, you've only seen nature level 1, but with this, it will allow you to make a staff, thorn, goodness, what is it called? I just make things, I don't even remember what they're called. Thistle Mace. Which is going to get you up to a level 3 nature, which is going to be very, very nice, of course. Also, this is going to be a Foul Vapors caster with units such as the Sacred you're using, having a multitude of nature mages, being able to give out poison resistant buffs to your units, while also having undead that don't care about the poison, having recruitable undead that don't care about the poison, having sacreds that could possibly have poison resistance on them. I feel like that could be a great possibility there, that you could use Foul Vapors to your benefit. Along with that, you have to keep in mind that a lot of units either have Spirit Sight, can have Spirit Sight through Blesses and whatnot. So, like things like Darkness, you might think, oh, I have so many other units that have that. But honestly, if you build up a certain way, you're not really going to have to worry about that. You're just going to see all of your units have that kind of ability that won't really affect them all that much. Or they can have Dark Vision 50, which works, I mean, half as good. More than likely, it's going to hurt your opponent more. And I do see that we did get a 10% random there. But yeah, if you do want to be casting Diamond here, you want to be prophetizing your Holy 3 recruitables and then giving them 2 boosters, which will require you to be at Construction 6 and Conjuration 7. So more than likely, this is going to be a lot more into the late game as far as your Diamond go. But you will be able to, I mean, of course, have the Mons here at Conjuration 5 along with the Lars. While also having a great benefit of going for Conjuration 5, because that will give you summon water elementals that all of your adjudicators can cast, along with having summon earth power, which will then allow you to do summon earth elemental with all your adjudicators that you have. It will also give you access to Howl from your Lars here. So I feel like this is a pretty strong path for you for sure. Depending on how you do it. I do think construction will also be very, very useful for you to get those boosters that you're going to be needing. Of course, you can say, oh, alteration and champion, yes. I mean, you could probably do a little bit of stuff here as far as thaumaturgy goes, but it'd probably be something you pick up later on. So that is something for sure. And this blood, yes, you can break into blood, but you're not going to have any paths or you don't have any blood paths that you can really summon into. Possibly going into something, but that's up to you on how you want to play that. Evocation, of course, there are a bunch of evocation spells that you could grab. of course, I feel like this is kind of lower on the bar as far as things go, that you're going to be wanting a lot of other things. And yeah, sure, there's Stygian Reigns, but it's all the way at level 7, you know, it's so low down. You could end up casting things like Murdering Winter too, a very, very powerful spell. If you have large amounts of water gems, which you probably will since you're more focused on water gems at that point. You could also go for something, well, Celestial Rainbow would be kind of difficult. But Maelstrom, there we go. Maelstrom could be something you do go after as well, giving you 15 water, 5 astral, 3 air, and then 1 of each other type of gem. That is pretty powerful. Very, very nice global to hold on to there. Only at a water 6 level. Uh, More than likely, you might have to get your pretender to either help boost to get to that path or have them make items to get that, like some of the rings and such, to get those few extra levels to kind of get you there over the top. Other than that, not too much left in evocation. And that's really all we have here. A very, very interesting nation. Honestly, with a mix of undead and heavy infantry. You could go after fatigue plays, but you have to keep in mind that your units will have high encumbrance as well. So it could put them in a very dangerous position, whereas undead, it's not going to bother them at all. So keep that in mind on how you build your troops and depending on how you like to play. Other than that, of course, you do probably want to be making temples, getting as much as you can. Yes, they are more expensive, but I do see this nation playing as a scales nation, not necessarily a bless nation, a bless focused nation. So more than likely you'll be taking pretty high scales. On top of that, you do have access if you, I mean, yes, it is in Thaumaturgy. I said you probably don't really want to go down Thaumaturgy unless you're going for Maelstrom. But you will have things like Vengeful Water you could go after. If you're already focusing on your Dominion because you want to be making those temples, you could work around that. Dark Guys, you'd have to get your God to cast. Other than that, you'd probably have to get like Wrath of God. Your God will have to cast that as well, depending on what paths you put on them. It might be easier or harder. But since you're already focusing on your Dominion like that, you might as well think of things or keep things in your head that really work well with Dominion. Also, things like Riches from Beneath. That works very well with Dominion. Let's see, riches. Plus 20% Dominion max of 100 plus province income, resource value Dominion max of 5. So of course you're going to max this out because you're more than likely going to have more than 5 Dominion, and since you're going to have temples or looking to buy temples, and since you're going to have a lot of money from your scales, you're going to be pushing your Dominion pretty hard as well. So this is going to be maxed out in every prov as far as that goes. So just a lot of things you can keep in mind here. Fortunately, you don't have really any access to fire there. Flaming arrows, or that would be nice with all the javelins that you do have. Fortunately, you do not have them. What else you can do? What else? What's something good you can go down? Of course, you have decent nature magic. Sea Vice, and it's situational for sure. Darkness is great, and not really Skeletal Legion. Liquefy is a pretty good spell. Ground Army, something you'd be able to cast. You also be able to cast Wizard's Tower. At that point, you probably would need a Bloodstone, but you might be able to go into that anyway, depending on how you built your Pretender. Not too much anything else here. I mean, that's 3. Never mind. Between Communion, of course, you may cast an Army of Lead, Army of Gold if you do have those Communion matrices. And what I'm talking about, well, I need an Astral. I need an Astral Earth to even see it, because they don't show up. Forge, yeah, they don't show up. Oh, goodness. And that's all I have here for this nation, guys. It's a pretty cool one. Definitely should check it out. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.